Ladies and gentlemen, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Pickup Lines. It is the talk show in a car, and we are pleased here to be joined. I've said this before. I wanted to use this show for many things over the years, including giving love to veterans in the military. We're in Military City, USA, and I've said this before. I did not serve, and I don't really come from a family necessarily of those who have served, but I'm always eager to learn and to use the platform to help those, especially those who have served, including my guest today, Earl Fontenot, who, among other things, is a military veteran and currently works with the Wounded Warrior Project, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But first and foremost, above all, thank you for your military service.
Yes, thank you.
And thanks for being here today. I always like to start kind of go in chronological order with where you grew up, where were you born and raised, and what are your earliest memories of childhood, and was the military part of that?
It was, yeah. So I was born in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. So it's about a little bit in between Denver and Boulder.
Yeah.
A lot of my earliest memories were, we were really big into sports, wrestling and judo. So everything I can remember was just going to tournaments. One of my parents was always there going to practice. My dad was my wrestling coach until I got to high school.
Yeah.
And the family had a really deep sense of service. So my dad served in the Army a little bit at the end of Vietnam. His dad served in the Army. His mom served in the Army. On my mom's side, it seems like everybody served in every branch. So I grew up with a big sense of service and just entrenched in sports.
But was it a foregone conclusion that you were going to join the military at some point?
I thought about it a lot in high school. I'll be honest, I wasn't the best student.
Yeah.
And I think, just getting to learn a lot more over time about my dad and my grandparents. Nobody really talked about it much. My grandma was probably the biggest influence. She was the commander of her American Legion post in Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Back then when she served in the Army, that was a huge deal for women to serve in the Army during World War II, the Korean War. And then, going through high school, I tried to, I got out of high school. I didn't play any sports in college. I ended up going to a community college in my freshman year. 9/11 happened. So that's when everything just snapped for me.
Boy, and it's remarkable how many lives were changed, but how many people I've even spoken to on this show and otherwise who that day, I remember it was a Tuesday, and how 9/11 just changed everything. And at that time, you said you were a freshman in high school?
Freshman in college.
In college, excuse me. Yeah. Were you already thinking military, or this kind of sealed it for you?
A little bit, because a lot of the guys I grew up with wrestling, they were a year older than me. Right out of high school, they joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And then some of the guys that were my age had already joined the Army or the Marine Corps. So it was on my mind, but that was the tipping point, was 9/11. I'll never forget. I was asleep in the morning. My mom woke me up after the first plane hit, told me to turn on the news. And it was, thinking back now for everybody, it's kind of a surreal moment. And I remember thinking that night, all the planes were shut down. So you look up at the sky at night and you saw nothing. And I went that next week and started talking to recruiters.
Did you have a plan in mind? Had 9/11 not happened, maybe you hadn't joined the military, or maybe joined later, but a career path you wanted to pursue?
To be honest, a gym teacher. I wanted to be a gym teacher. Yeah, even during the Army, I thought about being a gym teacher. So that was always something I wanted to push for. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can only, getting back to just your relatives and that served and everything, your grandmother, you said, right?
Yep.
I mean, you must have had some amazing stories around the dinner table or during the holidays, just talking, or did they not talk about their service a lot?
They didn't talk about it much. The only thing my grandmother talked about was just actually really nothing. I saw her in her American Legion stuff, the hat that they all wear every now and then. But there wasn't much. We would go to her house for lunch after church every Sunday. She lived about an hour from us. And that was it. As I got older, my dad would open up a little bit more about what, his experience was in the Army. But like I said, he didn't serve in Vietnam. He was in an armored unit.
Right.
Went to Germany. So he was on the line with, on the other side of the fence were Russians. And got to hear a little bit about that, but that was about it.
Yeah, yeah. So you joined the Army after 9/11 and you get deployed.
Yeah, so I went to basic at Fort Sill. During basic training, we invaded Iraq. So it took me about a year to get into the Army. I needed a medical waiver for my finger. So we invaded Iraq while I was in basic training. At the end of my AIT, my job school, I was artillery. Everybody started getting their duty station switched because we were now in 2 different locations for war. So I ended up I was supposed to go Fort Carson, Colorado. Ended up getting Fort Drum, New York, the 10th Mountain Division. Went home for a month for hometown recruiter. And then as soon as I got to Fort Drum, my unit met my section chief. He handed me a packing list and said, we're on our way to Afghanistan. So within about a month of checking into Fort Drum, we landed in Kandahar.
I mean, and again, forgive me because I can't relate necessarily, but when you got to New York, did you have any expectation that you were going to be leaving so soon?
The whole thing was, it's like a movie. So when I found out I was going to Fort Drum, New York, all I thought of, at about 20 years old was New York City. I was ecstatic.
The Big Apple.
Yes,
yeah.
But Fort Drum, New York's about 6 hours north of New York City. It's almost in Canada. So you fly into Syracuse, and then there's another 90-minute bus ride up north.
It's wintertime, right? It's cold.
I got there about midsummer. Thankfully.
Oh, you were in summer. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't that big of a shock. And then we get up there, and I had a little bit because everybody's duty station was changing. I didn't think it would be that fast. So it was quick. And then, my job was going to change. I was artillery. I was trained for artillery. When I got to my unit, I found out that my unit switched to mortars, 120 millimeter mortars. So I had to learn a whole new job. I'll never forget landing in Kandahar. I was sent 2 weeks early. With an advanced party. We land in Kandahar, and it was like MASH. You land on a runway, had to have been over 100 degrees. You look out to your right, and there was mountains with helicopters coming over the mountains, sunset. And I'll never forget that. It was like I was in a TV show.
So you're roughly 20 years old?
Yep.
But you must have felt like you even grew up even more in that short period of time.
Real fast. So our first mission, I had to learn the mortar. Luckily, by chance, I was really quick with the sight, so I became the gunner on our mortar. And then we went on a mission within 2 or 3 weeks. We put all our stuff on a Chinook helicopter, went into the mountains. We were dropped off for, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks in the mountains, and it was growing up really quick.
In Afghanistan, you said?
In Afghanistan, yeah.
Okay. So obviously George W. Bush was president at the time of the United States, and you've since worked with him in your work with the Wounded Warrior Project.
Yeah, so I was... about 2019, I was accepted. He started a veteran leadership program through his institute up in Dallas. And I was accepted into the second cohort of that.
Yeah.
The Stand 2 veteran leadership program.
Unbelievable stuff. Well, we'll take a little pause right there, kind of catch our breath. Here, we have a lot more to get to. Earl Fontenot is the guest here. Army veteran, Wounded Warrior Project, and many other things as well. Stand by. We'll be right back here. More pickup lines coming up. All right, welcome back to Pickup Lines here, talking with Earl Fontenot, Army veteran, kind of reflecting on his military service, which began essentially right around 9/11. You were talking about being in Kandahar, in Afghanistan.
Yes.
And you're on a Chinook helicopter, immediately seeing action, if you will. And, I mean, are you scared while this is happening?
Yeah, I was scared. Thinking back now, it was scary. So we were always indirect fire. Thankfully for me, it was nothing what I went through that they make movies about. The mortars, when we would get fire missions, we were always pretty far away. But in that first mission, we call it fire for effect. You're shooting 8 rounds out of 2 guns as quick as you can to help somebody else out, and it was coming fast. And I'll never forget when we landed in the mountains, I was running off the Chinook. They were dropping bombs on a nearby mountain. So you had that going off. I went and pulled guard real quick. My medic came to check on me. He went back. Next thing I know, he's yelling. People were hidden under a waterfall right behind me. So everything come at you pretty quick. And then the rest of the deployment was like that. We ended up going to Salerno, which was a forward operating base that was being built up on the Pakistan border. Stayed up there for about 6 months and did a lot of the same thing. A lot of mortar support for infantry, ranger units, and special operation units. Where we would go out, be gone for a month at a time, and then come back.
So how did all of that military service impact you physically, mentally, emotionally? Do you even have time when you're in the middle of that to process what's happening and take it all in?
You don't. So when and that's where I think a lot of the transition issues that we saw from the post 9/11 generation, the war on terror, came from. So The big difference between now and even, World War II is they came back on a ship. They had time to decompress. Coming back from Afghanistan, I took off from Kandahar airfield, going through Kyrgyzstan and coming
Right.
back. And within a day, I'm back at Fort Drum, New York. And it was instant. And then you get 3 and 4 day weekends. I was single. So that's when you hear about people with substance abuse and their self-medication. I don't think it ever really sits in that you're supposed to wind down. And you really don't have time to, because, the 10th Mountain Division was one of the most deployed units during the War on Terror. So within 9 months of getting back from Afghanistan, the whole time we were training to go to Iraq.
So were you exposed to some of those temptations? I mean, did you have problems kind of
I
reacclimating?
did, yeah. So we drank a lot. The military, I think it's changed a lot, but back then it was a party mentality. Everybody kind of did that together.
But for coping, right? Not necessarily to have a great time and
both.
yeah.
I think it was a lot of both. So there was a lot of drinking between Afghanistan and Iraq. And then you go to Iraq and you go through it all again. For me, Afghanistan was a lot worse than our deployment to Iraq. And I feel it's weird saying that, because Afghanistan, my unit didn't lose anybody. Iraq, we lost 2 people to an IED. So two completely different, worlds. And then when we came back from Iraq, fast forward to, it was around midsummer 2006. That's when I was getting ready to get out of the Army. And then I had a really hard time transitioning, especially with, self-medication with alcohol. That was the main thing. Never any drugs, but it was just alcohol.
And losing people in your unit. I mean, I can't imagine what that loss is like.
Yeah, it's tough. But the weird thing looking back on it now is you kind of get numb to everything. So Afghanistan, a lot of rocket attacks. And then at a certain point, you kind of become numb to it. It doesn't affect you when you hear the sirens going off. And then Iraq, you became even more numb to everything that's going on around you. And then you come back and you're just, again, within 24 hours, you're in upstate New York and you're plopped back into society again.
Were you physically injured at all?
I was injured in Afghanistan. We were right on the Kuwait border, or Pakistan border. We were going up to Pol Guard at about 2 a.m, and we got attacked. It was rockets coming in. A buddy of mine, LeBrake, we were thrown. He kind of landed on top of me. We ran down because we were mortars, so we had to start firing back. And then at the end of it, I kind of realized that I couldn't. Something hurt in my right hip, my leg. We're out in the middle of nowhere, so they kind of figured I hurt my hamstring, but it kind of got through it. When we got back, we were working out, did the exact same thing to my back again, and found out that I had some disc and spine problems in my lower back. Yeah.
Because that's what I've heard too, is when there's physical pain involved, that medications and addictions, that can lead to those kinds of problems as well.
Oh yeah, when I got back, the VA, it's changed a lot, so I don't want to put a lot of bad things on the VA, but their process back then to fix everything was, Vicodin every month, Ambien every month to help me sleep, and then a list of 8 other medications that I would take every month. So it was, getting past that was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do.
So when you got back to New York and you talked about just the quick turnaround, were there resources available for you to, how difficult was it getting back to, and did you ultimately go back to Colorado?
I did. So I had about 4 months because I was in during the big stop loss when the surge in 2005. So I had about 4 months when I got back to get out. And then again, it was just me and a lot of guys that were getting out was pure drinking for 4 months. Got back, moved back to Colorado. And that's where a lot of problems began. So within a few months of getting back to Colorado, I ended up getting arrested at a bar fight. That was probably one of my, first biggest wake up calls. My then girlfriend, who thankfully now is my wife, she, God bless her, she dealt with a lot with me. She became pregnant with our son, who's just started college, and then she left me. She moved all the way back to Pennsylvania. So
Really?
I had a lot of things to figure out. But the VA was always there. Wasn't as good as it is now. So I started, trying to get help. But it wasn't until 2010, the first of many. But at the time, my best friend committed suicide. And that was probably the biggest kick to the gut I could have ever gotten. And it turned my life around right there.
I didn't realize how low it got for you.
It got pretty low. And when he committed suicide, I had talked to him not much longer before. It was the Friday, November 29th, 2010, right after Thanksgiving, woke up, shot himself.
Gosh.
He was the happiest guy in the world, was teaching jiu-jitsu to kids, fly fishing, was going to be a fireman in Utah. And then when that happened is when I reached out to Wounded Warrior Project for the first time.
Okay, which leads us, and you're still with him to this day.
I am.
Yep. And obviously you're married now, your wife, you were able to work that out, and your son and everything.
Yep.
And
3 kids now. Again, God bless her. She's still with me. I'm like her 4th child still. So it's
her oldest.
Yeah, I'm her oldest. So I reached out to Wounded Warrior Project. At the time, they just started a program called Warriors to Work.
Yeah.
I went to my first outreach. By this time, I had followed my wife. I'd moved up to Pennsylvania with her.
Yeah.
I went to the first outreach event with the Wounded Warrior Project, and a gentleman said, "What do you want to do with the rest of your life?" I said, I want to end veteran suicide. I don't want anybody else to ever go through this again. So he got me signed up in Warriors to Work. At the time, I hadn't gone to college yet. So Warriors to Work, I was working at Air Gas, selling gas to Cornell University, and I ended up getting a congressional fellowship through Warriors to Work. And I tell people all the time now, Wounded Warrior Project legitimately saved my life. Like, it put me down a path to where it got me now. I can't imagine where I would be without them in their programs. But I've gone through Warriors to Work twice since. But the congressional fellowship, probably the best thing it did for me. I worked for a wonderful congresswoman. I was their liaison to help other veterans, and doing that work was the best therapy I've ever gotten in my life, just helping other people.
And you literally wear Wounded Warrior Project on your lapel right there, which and that's what I want to kind of focus on when we come back here. We'll step aside. Earl Fontenot is the guest here, Army veteran, and just I'm honored that he's sharing some pretty personal things here with us, talking just about how low things got. It sounds like you're in a great place now.
I am, yes.
But not before a little trouble along the way. We'll step aside. More pickup lines when we come back. A few more minutes here with Earl Fontenot, just kind of recounting his military service, multiple deployments, coming back to the U.S. Post 9/11 and getting reacclimated. Going through some rough times, but then Wounded Warrior Project is introduced into your life. You had a friend, you said, that had taken his own life and everything. Yeah. Was it Wounded Warrior Project that brought you to San Antonio?
It wasn't. So when I worked for the Congresswoman, it lasted about 18 months. My next job after that was I was the first employee at a nonprofit up in upstate New York helping veterans. We did peer support and service dogs. And then at the same time, a great mentor of mine, he's a dean now at Syracuse University, talked me into going to school. I was one of the guys who was like, I don't need that. So I went part-time at Syracuse. I graduated December 2018. Right after I graduated, my wife and I looked at each other and said, we got to get out of here. We were averaging about 120 inches of snow a year.
Yeah.
So it was either going back to Colorado or Texas. My wife always wanted to live in Texas. My dad lived here for about 5 years working with the oil and gas companies, and I knew the military presence in San Antonio. So she's got her MSW. I had a big background in the military and veterans
social work. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Masters of social work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she works for the state now.
Okay.
But
no, I'm married to a social worker too.
Okay. So
God love him. Oh yeah. God bless him.
So we picked San Antonio, and we've been here. We moved here July 2019.
Yeah.
Yep.
So far, so good.
We love it here. I ended up.
I mean, I'm biased, but I love San Antonio.
Yeah.
But I mean, Military City, USA. There's a reason they call it that.
Overwhelming support. I had to get used to that. In Syracuse, I only lived an hour and a half south of Fort Drum, but I have never experienced a community that wraps their arms around veterans and military members as much as I have in San Antonio.
Do people? Because we here in San Antonio, I mean, we take pride in that, I think, and we're aware of that. People outside San Antonio, are they aware of it as well?
I don't think they are. And I think I wish everybody knew, because it is, like I said, it took me a while to get used to it. I'll never forget the first time we went to IKEA. I'm walking down the gigantic parking lot, and almost every license plate was a military license plate. And I was blown away. And at the airport. So you see that all the time. But what a lot of people don't realize is the VA and the government, they can't they're never going to be able to help us 100% on their own. So it's the community that has to step in, wrap their arms around us, and then that's where you get that holistic help that really helps the warfighter community.
So your title with Wounded Warrior Project is you're the regional director of major gifts, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
does that would imply you're soliciting support from people to help, because the services and everything that are provided obviously are not free.
Yep.
So let's use this kind of, if you will, to help appeal to that. Give us an idea of some of the services that are priceless in your mind, and why it would be important for somebody who might see this to either take advantage of them or to support them if they can.
So number one in my heart is the Warriors to Work program. I went through it in 2010. I actually went through it again when I moved here to San Antonio. So the resume they made for me is the resume I submitted when I applied to Wounded Warrior Project, and I've updated since for my promotions. So the big three things we focus on at Wounded Warrior Project are mental health, physical health, and just overall financial well-being. And that could be, anything from Warriors to Work to financial readiness that we have an incredible program with. But it's really everything encompassing the warrior. Everything's free of charge to the warrior, their family. So we also serve family members. So take Warriors to Work, for instance. If a spouse needs help, Warriors to Work will help him. If one of the children needs help, Warriors to Work will help them as well. So big focus on mental health. Obviously, that's a huge focus for everybody right now. Physical health, I think, is one of the best things that can help mental health. But for me personally, I've lived through it. I'm proof that the program works. If you get a meaningful job, and I think that's where a lot of people that get out of service that have a lot of trouble, they can't find that fulfillment again. That comes from a job. You're supporting your family, things like that. And then you got to find your tribe again. So you miss the camaraderie for the military, where that's where our outreach program comes in, our alumni program, getting warriors to events, get them out of isolation, get them out around other people, and then you start to see veterans flourish again.
So you wear multiple hats.
I do. Our team deals with high net worth individuals that want to support our mission. But I still enjoy helping warriors. I'm not on the program side, but every now and then I'll meet a warrior that I'll help personally. And then a lot of the guys that I served with, I've been out, it'll be 20 years in November 26. They're still needing help. So I get them tied in.
And is it still the case, or is it even the case where a lot of the veterans that are watching are reluctant to get help, don't think they need the help, or they're too embarrassed to get the help?
I think it's a little bit of everything and a lot of stigma. Our name's Wounded Warrior Projects, and you see our commercials and people think that you have to be severely injured to be in Wounded Warrior Project. Not the case. We can register people that are still on active duty. Because everybody goes through things that are eventually, you're going to go to the VA. Some people don't go to the VA and get a disability rating, but they have problems from their service. So we want them to register. We have some of the best benefits people in the world, our whole team across the country, really get them in the door. And every one of our programs, get them in, get the referrals in, and get them on a path to where they can have positive outcomes in life.
So anybody that is seeing this can realize there is an office or a branch here in San Antonio. They could reach out today.
Yep. Our second biggest office is here in San Antonio. It was the second office that we opened up outside of our headquarters in Jacksonville. And the state of Texas, we serve the most veterans out of any state in the country at Wounded Warrior Project.
It's amazing.
Yep.
That is amazing. Biggest need, would you say, right now within the military community as it relates to what you do? Or if there were to raise awareness for this, what would that be, do you think?
Awareness, like you said, it's, fortunately there's not two wars going on right now, so we're not in the 24-hour news cycle anymore. You only hear about veterans issues when there's some kind of tragedy that happens. But there is still things going on throughout the world. Brooke Army Medical Center still has people coming in. People are still getting deployed. There's still training accidents. So overall support, one big one we have coming up here in San Antonio, October 25th at Morgan's Wonderland Sports Complex. We have our Carry Forward 5K. One of the biggest 5Ks we have in the country is here in San Antonio. Over 2,000 people show up. Yeah. So that's a huge, one way for the community to get involved, but just continue supporting, even if it's, telling other people, getting warriors signed up, getting family members signed up, or even if it's that $19 a month.
So there are multiple ways to give back. I guess lastly, would you say you're in a good place? I know you've been through a lot.
I am in a good place. Luckily, obviously, like many people, my wife was like the rock that continues to kind of prop me up. She allows me to be me. My kids, I have 3 kids now, are all, the reason why I keep doing. And then my job, we like to say our logo is one warrior carrying another. You start out as the warrior being carried, and then you eventually become the warrior that carries other people. And I think I've come full circle to that. So going to work every day for me, I love the work we do. The mission is very personal to me. I love my team. So this is probably the best place I've been in my life.
I'm thrilled for you. Like I said, I'm biased. I love San Antonio, but we're so glad that you're here. And hopefully if anybody sees this, a veteran or a family member will see this and realize there is help at this very moment for whatever you might be going through. And I know Earl is on social media, LinkedIn, and the different platforms where people can reach out to you and talk, if nothing else, and get help. It's an honor to have you in the car today. Thank you so much for your service and for your time.
Thank you.
If people want to find out more information, Wounded Warrior Project, all over social media, I know that, and we'll be sure to put the links here on the KSAT platforms. But thank you, and continued success to you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Very good. Earl Fontenot, Regional Director of Major Gifts, Wounded Warrior Project, and a proud Army veteran and a proud San Antonio resident as well. And again, married to a social worker, which is bonus points in my book. There's another episode of Pickup Lines. We'll be back again very, very soon. Again, thanks to all of you military members who have served, by the way. We always appreciate that. And until next time, I'm Ernie Zuniga. Have a great day.